Good afternoon, Mr. Beard here, and today we are discussing and practicing helping verbs. We've been discussing helping verbs for a few weeks now. This is just a little extra practice to get us good at it. Helping verbs are also known as auxiliary verbs, and they're used to modify the mood of a verb or tell you when a verb is going to take place. Here are a list of common modal auxiliary verbs. You can see that list. I'm not going to read that to you. And this packet that we gave you goes through each of these modal auxiliary verbs, or just helping verbs, and it talks about their function in a sentence, how they help the verb, what they tell you, and then it has you identify between two very similar helping verbs. For example, will or would, shall or should, can, could. You can see all of those there again. I would like to take a second to just go through this with you and to do it along with you so that if you're struggling, this will make a little bit more sense. I posted a link. These activities are from EnglishForEveryone.org, so you can find those on your own, or you can just follow the link that I will post on YouTube and Twitter to take you to those papers. Okay, so on this first page here, it says, make your own sentences using will, using the helping verb will. You can see the examples here. There's not really much I can do for you there since we've already provided a couple examples. Will does tell you something that's going to happen in the future. So you can see what this helping verb is doing here. It's telling you this verb, cook, will take place later on down the road. You haven't done it yet, but you are guaranteeing or promising that you will do it. My wife certainly has heard many times that I will take out the trash or do certain things around the house. And of course, I follow through on those. Okay, must and have to are different. Must means something will happen. It is an obligation that it will happen, and it is based on logic that it will happen. If you must do something, you are obligated to do something, and it will take place. Again, we started off by making our own sentences using must. And then it asks us to find the correct verb in each sentence. Let's do a couple together. Number one, my boss told me that I either have to or must work overtime this week. So which would that be? Well, if you understand that have to usually comes from an external source, as it says here in the definition for have to, it comes from an external source, such as a boss, the law, or an authority, then we know, yes, it has to be have to. All right, number two, I get my hair cut before the dance. Well, I must get my hair cut before the dance. So you can get a feel for what you're doing here. Next, we go on to may and might. That suggests that there's a permission that something may happen or a possibility that something may happen. Like, maybe someday you'll become a doctor. You may become a doctor. There's the possibility. The other use is when you are asking for permission. It denotes you have the permission to do something. You've probably had those really annoying English teachers in the past when you asked, can I go to the bathroom, who say, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. They're asking you to say may, to note permission versus physical ability. So they're being clever, or well, not so clever, by trying to get you to use the correct grammar. Not that I would ever do that. Here we see again, might is used to express possibility. It differs from may in that the possibility it expresses is usually smaller. So instead of saying I may become a doctor, there's a high likelihood that I might become a doctor because I'm currently in med school or something like that. Now it's saying I might become a doctor when I grow up, but I doubt it. So it's a smaller percent chance that this is going to happen. Note here again, it comes right before that action verb become. Just like may came right before that action verb become. It is assisting in changing the timing or the possibility or probability of this verb. Okay, so it's assisting that verb. Next, we have can and could. We probably see can and could more than we do any other helping verb. I know we have in this class, and I know we still struggle when we see can as a helping verb. For example, when it says I can cook dinner, it is expressing ability to cook dinner. I have the ability to cook dinner, or the willingness to cook dinner. If I tell my wife I can cook dinner tonight, it means I am expressing both that I'm able to cook dinner and that I'm willing to cook dinner. So that changes the tense of cook. If I said I cannot cook dinner tonight, that means I'm either not able or not willing to cook dinner. So it changes the main action verb cook there. When you say, can you pass me the ketchup, do you have the willingness to pass me the ketchup? If you said, can I use your pencil, you see asking permission. And again, on a question, you've got to invert it, so it would be, I can use your pencil, if you were changing that to a statement. And can would be helping the main verb use there. Okay, and this is probably one of the harder parts that we've got to in this packet. You have to look here at what function can is performing in each of these sentences. What is this auxiliary verb can doing? What is it functioning as in this sentence? Is it expressing ability? Is it expressing willingness? Is it expressing permission or possibility? Number one, I can tie my shoes. Well, it's saying I have the ability to tie my shoes, so I would circle A for ability. Can I have a piece of gum? Well, that would be asking permission, so I would circle P-E-R. Number three, if you ride a motorcycle, you can fall. That's a possibility that you could fall, so you would circle possibility. Number four, can you get me a drink of water? You're asking someone's willingness to get them a drink of water. It does not seem to be asking, are you physically able to get me a drink of water? In this instance, it's, are you willing to get me a drink of water? If you ask someone, can you bench press 300 pounds, that would be ability. When you're asking someone to do something, almost always it's, are you willing to do it? Last one, I can speak English well. That is, again, ability. You have the ability to speak English well. All right, the last page on here is ought to and had better. Ought to is used to express the ideal action, the best action you can take, something you probably should do. It is different from should, and that gives a sentence a more obligatory tone. So the negative of this, obviously, is ought not, or I oughtn't. So, for example, I ought to become a doctor because my father was a doctor, expresses that this is probably ideal. It's almost more obligatory. My dad was a doctor. I probably should keep that family tradition going. Then you've got to make your sentences with ought to, just like you've done several times by now. Then had better is used in the same way. They're rough synonyms, meaning that they're not exact, 100% synonyms, but they mean very similar things. An example here is he had better wash his hands before he eats. It's again expressing somewhat an obligatory action, like you better do that. You better wash your hands. That's just good practice. Okay, So then we have to go through and circle the correct helping verb in each sentence. You can practice those and getting a feel for which one to use in the correct situation there. That's all for today. That covers helping verbs, which we will be covering in more depth as the week goes on. Thanks for listening.